So we're on to the supporting psychological knowledge of the communication module now. So humans by nature are social beings, and our social and relational wellness is a key factor in our overall well-being, which annoys me sometimes as my hermit self, introverted self really struggles with this, but it is true. We are very oriented towards social connection. It's very important for our well-being. Anyway, therefore, it is necessary to learn how to communicate effectively with others. The old saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can never hurt me, is simply not true. Words can definitely hurt people and cause significant trauma. So, Professor Dumbledore, a character from the Harry Potter series, explained the immense power of our words when he said, words are, in my not so humble opinion, our most inexhaustible source of magic, capable of both inflicting injury and remedying it. You're welcome for that very oaky British accent. Anyway, this means that it is critical that we are careful and deliberate with our words, given the lasting impact they can have on ourselves and others. Words are how we process our thoughts and emotions, as well as how we get our needs met. Other people can't read your mind, so to ask for help and get your needs met, you have to have the willingness and the skills to communicate effectively. How we speak to others has a huge impact on our relationships. Our words can make others feel loved and cared for, or rejected and disrespected. Poor communication is one of the top problems in relationships and leads to increased conflict and stress. It's a major reason why people end up in marriage/couples and family therapy. Communication is much more nuanced than most of us realize, and many people are not skilled at it, myself included sometimes. We initially learn how to communicate with others from our caregiver or from how our caregivers modeled communication. For example, if we had caregivers that were highly critical, spoke to us or others disrespectfully, or yelled often, we are more likely to find ourselves repeating those behaviors in our relationships unless we become aware of these patterns and intentionally change them. We also receive societal and cultural messages that tell us not to be reflective and open about our thoughts and emotions. Males are at an even greater risk of receiving and internalizing these messages, unfortunately. Many of us were not taught how to understand and regulate our emotions before speaking, which leads to acting out in harmful ways instead of practicing healthy communication. Substance use puts us at even greater risk for this behavior. When we are emotionally dysregulated and or under the influence of a substance, a part of our brain called the amygdala, which is part of the emotional system of the brain known as the limbic system, hijacks our prefrontal cortex, or the rational part of our brain, which makes it very difficult for us to communicate calmly, rationally, and effectively. If you struggle with being able to effectively communicate with others, here is a helpful guide to get you started on finding tips and activities that can help you improve your interpersonal effectiveness using principles from DBT. And I've linked it there. And in general, I know I've talked about this before, but just in case to go over it again, DBT stands for dialectical behavior therapy, and the four main modules that are part of DBT is mindfulness, emotional regulation, distress tolerance, and then interpersonal effectiveness. And all of those things are important for communication, but especially in the interpersonal effectiveness section of DBT, there are tons and tons and tons of resources on how to communicate in a more effective and healthy and mature way.